Welcome to this first in a series of 15-minute lightning webinars designed to throw a load of useful tips and tricks at you while you have a tea break. All my info's in the bio, and we've been playing about grey tech for the last 10 minutes, so just get a pen and paper ready to know anything new that you might find useful. I'll be splitting this into three categories. Number one, your computer. Number two, your software. And number three, the way you work with any time that I have left. No PowerPoint, let's just dive straight in. So let's start by making sure your computer is running its best life. You can, first of all, just have a look at your task manager and you can see the kind of numbers that you're getting here in terms of performance. If you're using a laptop, certainly in Windows 10 and before, if you click on the little battery in the bottom symbol there, you can see that often that is not whapped up to best performance. So get it whapped up to best performance. And that's going to allow you to really increase your processing speed to give you the maximum speed that you can get. Mine will run about 5, I think it runs up to, maybe a little bit more than that. But it will only do that if I've set my computer to run to maximum performance. I see that a lot. Other thing you can do while you're in here, if you hit your Windows key and type in performance, you'll see, look, adjust the appearance and performance of Windows. The last thing you want is all your performance being sucked up by having pretty pictures in Windows. Set that to adjust for best performance, and that'll get rid of all the animation slides and all that stuff that you just don't need. Okay, so that's the first thing you should be doing with your computer. The next thing you need to do with your computer is make sure your graphics card is set up. Now if I go back to my task manager, you can see I've got a GPU 0 and GPU 1, and GPU 1 is my NVIDIA RTX. Now that's my added in graphics card. Again, I go on site a lot and I see a lot of these where that is flatlining because it's just not being used. So make sure you are using your graphics card. They often fit them but don't set them up. So to make sure you're doing that, the first thing you should do is make sure your drivers are up to date for your graphics card. Now I'm using NVIDIA here. You may be using a different one, but they've all got very similar kind of functionality. Now in the NVIDIA control, you've got this manage 3D settings. And what I've done here is I've set my base profile, so that will just use the internal graphics card. And it just has some basic settings in there, okay? But it will auto select between them, okay? I can force it to use the integrated one, but if the computer thinks it needs high performance, it will auto select. But what you can do is on the program settings, we can force it for any other program, so Inventor, Navisworks, Revit, AutoCAD, all variants. You can force that to use the high performance graphics card, so that all that memory is available just in the CAD, and the internal one can be there for Outlook and Microsoft Word and all the things that you don't need a high performance graphics card, and that will help massively with your performance. Now let's have a look at your software. Some of the biggest performance drags on your software are tooltips and labels and things like that. So the first top tip is update your software, because in 2023.2 and beyond there are some new features with labels. So we can see here I've got a profile view and I'm zoomed in on an area here on that profile view, and you can see all the labels. As I pan across, the labels only appear when I let go of the mouse. So they will reappear. You can see them turning themselves on and off as we go along in here. Go back, they've turned off. Go forward, they've turned on and off. Excuse me. So this is a new feature. It's turned on and off with this function down here, the AEC Label Optimize function. And you can turn these on for redrawing when zooming and panning. And you can change the level of detail for grouped labels, etc. And you can force a redraw of them. But you can also turn your labels off. So if you have a problematic drawing that's causing you some grief because it's just too clunky, you can turn all the labels off in here, and basically they've all gone. Some of them don't turn off, but most of them will turn off, so you can't see a lot of these labels. Same in the alignments and things like that. The labels will just turn on and off as and when you need them, or you can force them to be switched off in here. You can see the labels on my alignment and on my feature lines have now just turned on as I did that. So that's really handy, that. So update your software. That's top tip number 1 in this one. Next one is tooltips. Now you get tooltips on the command. So if I hover a command, I'll get a tooltip there. And we have to wait for that to render up and what have you, and that's a performance delay. And if I go into here, for example, and I hover over something, I'll get a tooltip on that object as well. We can turn them off as well. So if you again, on a problematic drawing, go into your options, and if you go into display, you can turn tooltips off on your ribbon up here. So that turns these ones off. And roll over tooltips you can turn off in your model here. So now when I hover anything, it's not going to wait and render anything up. If I go and hover a command, it's not going to wait to render anything up. It will help performance quite dramatically. Having said that, just to go back into here and turn these back on, sometimes tooltips can save you. So if I wanted to know what the level was of this block here, for example, I'd have to select it, go to properties, which might not be open, so it might be a right click and another click, and then view that. You could use tooltips to help you with that, and you can do that in the CUI. There's other presentations on the CUI. I am not going to go into it in any big detail. Just be aware, if you're unfamiliar with the CUI command, the customizable user interface, know that you can customize anything in AutoCAD, loads of things in AutoCAD, but also know that you can also break it. So do it with caution. But yeah, I could go in here. Now, if you're using a vertical like Civil 3D, the customization file is the Civil file. Up here, this is where the customization file is. And if you wanted to change the tooltips on civil objects, you do that here. So you've got your rollover tooltips, so all your civil objects, and you can turn on and off whatever you want. So for example, on a corridor, I could turn on things like line weights, descriptive field might be quite useful, things like that. And for the AutoCAD, they're loaded as a partial CUI. So I will go to partial CUIs. There's the AutoCAD. Let's roll over tooltips. Find blocks in here. You can add anything into this list, any basic function of AutoCAD, any feature. And you can go and tick things that you want. So I don't need to know the color. I don't need to know the line type. Just the layer would be useful, plus its position, X, Y, and Z. Maybe its name. Could be its rotation might be useful. Or any dynamic properties. They could be useful as well. So if I hover over that block now, hover my mouse, I don't have to select it, I can view that information. You can do the same with anything, polylines, anything like that. So although having these tooltips does slow things down a little bit, sometimes in some circumstances it's actually just more useful because it's less clicks. Next thing on your software is back in the options. When you hover over an object in AutoCAD, I'll just turn it back on here and let's go and hover some objects. When you hover objects, can you see it highlights them? Every time you hover an object, it highlights it. So you're asking your computer to know where it is, turn a tooltip on, and then highlight an object, which could be a very large object, or it could be a block that's very complex. So I think that is not much use either. So if I go back into the options and turn that off, I think it's useful when a command is active, so I leave it on for that. But when no command is active, hit OK. Now I can move my mouse around the screen and nothing will highlight, and that will help with performance as well. Next thing on performance is dynamic input down here, so the DYN mode. That's the mode, if you're unfamiliar, you know, when you have that turned on and you start typing, the command line effectively comes up where your mouse is, and you get some very handy kind of measurement tools where you can do distance and you can do angles and stuff like that. So it has its use. It can be very useful. but it uses performance. And again, if you're struggling with your machine, simply turn that off and use the command line as a reference instead. That will help. And while we're on with the command line, dock it. If you have your command line here and basically you start doing anything, it's basically going to create this little transparent 3 lines, etc. Just dock it. You'll have less trouble if it's docked. Whether it has a massive effect on performance, very unlikely, but it will have an effect. So I would suggest docking that would make more sense. It doesn't have to be as big as mine. You can have it smaller if you wish, or at the top of the screen, or wherever you want it to be. Next is a system variable that's really handy to change. You know when you're in AutoCAD and you hover your mouse over one of these tabs and you get all them layouts. And sometimes them layouts, there's a lot of them. You know, if I went into this one here, and then when you move your mouse over the layout accidentally, the computer has to wait while it switches the screen, and look how long I'm waiting now, and then it displays it. And then you think, oh, I didn't really want to do that. Oh my God, it's still not finished. Now it's displayed it. So now you think, oh, I didn't really want to do that anyway, and you just move your mouse away and you've got to wait for it to switch back again. So right rigmarole, you're asking a lot of your computer. And again, if you're likely to have problems with performance, turn that off. The command to turn that off, it's a system variable. So if you do it today, it'll be forever until you turn it back on. It's File, Tab, Thumb, Hover. Set that to 0. Now when you hover any of these things here, it will not auto switch until you physically click on it, and then it will switch to it. And I think that makes a lot more sense and will help with performance because the software's not going wild doing lots of stuff. Just while I'm on with that as well, system variables, there's a few in there that are quite useful. But one thing I see fairly regularly is this has got an xref in there. You saw that in the layout. You can see the xrefs in here, but when you go into model space, the xrefs faded out. And a lot of people don't know about these kind of little system variables. Sometimes you want to see it in the model space, and what people do to overcome that, instead of xrefing it in, they'll just insert it as a block. And if you insert it as a block, you've got more assets in your drawing and it's going to affect performance. So there is a system variable, xdwg fade control. There it is. And that controls how much it's faded. If I go to 90, it's faded in one way. If I go to 0, it's totally not faded. If I set it to 50, it's half faded. So you've got the different fade controls. But note, that's a system variable. So that will, if I change it to 0 now, it will be in every drawing from now on. I will not have any fade on any xrefs. But again, that could help with performance because you're not having to insert stuff. Right, next, we've not got long left, but next, let's just have a look at the way you work in certain things, okay? A lot of people are kind of slow in the way they open drawing. If you want to go and open a drawing, you might go and click in here and go and find the drawing, or you'll go to the start menu and go open and go and search for the drawing and all that business. If you don't want to do that and you wanted to actually just open a drawing from the file manager, so rather than, oh, let me just get this drawing up, hang fire. There we go. Okay, rather than double clicking drawings, because that's bad form, we're always telling people don't double click drawings, just go and open them directly from here. What you can do is you can just drag and drop the file. So this one here, if I wanted to open that file, I can drag and drop it. If I drop it into the drawing space, it becomes a block in this drawing and asks you to insert it. But if you drop it into the address bar, which is at the top here, boom, that will open a drawing as well. So if you're doing it from Windows Explorer, the file manager, just drag and drop it into the address bar at the top. You can actually drag and drop it into this bar underneath the ribbon as well. That will also open the file. So that's a quick way of opening files. Next is we can, again, this is just AutoCAD based. I'll look at a couple of civil ones in a minute. But you can look at using the quick access toolbar a little bit more effectively as well. So that's this thing at the top here. You're probably all aware, if I wanted to add something to the quick access toolbar, I can just simply right click and add it to the quick access toolbar, and there it is, and I can use the tool from there, and I can right click and I can remove it from the quick access toolbar. But you can add any command you want in there. You can see I've got this one, which is open up the UKIE template. This is open up my QNew template. Then I've got my DD in for the old insert, convert circles to polylines, turn the geomacro. You can add any commands in there, which again will just make it much faster in the way that you're working. So a good example of that is the multiple command. It's quite a useful command. You know, if I was to draw a circle, and then I want to draw another circle, you have to hit enter, draw the other circle, hit enter, draw the other circle, etc. There is a command called multiple. The reason why most people don't actually use this command is because, there we are, I'm not hitting enter anymore. I'm just drawing circles, just by clicking and clicking. You can do that with any commands as well. I think the main reason people don't use that is because there isn't an easy accessible button for it, is there? And there isn't really a decent shortcut for it either. I mean, you could make a shortcut for it. But what you can do, if I go to the CUI again, how are we doing? Oh, we ain't got long. This bottom left window are all your commands, and the top left window is my interface. So if I go to my quick access toolbar, there's the one I'm using. Go and search for the command multiple. There it is. There's one in the civil interface, there's one in the AutoCAD. I'm just going to drag that into here. So I've now got this multiple tool in here. It should appear there. There it is. So now, if I wanted to do anything multiple times, doesn't matter what it is, I can pick multiple, start my command, and I can just go and start doing stuff without having to repeat the command. It's quite useful if I was going to use the move command, for example. I could do multiple, move that object, it stays in command, and I can just go keep selecting objects and moving on. So just be a bit canny about some of these commands that are kind of hidden in there, that are missing from there. From the interface. My favourite one is the oops command, for example. If you accidentally delete a load of stuff, but then in the meantime you do something else, like so, you think, oh, I've buggered up, I've missed these things. I don't want to use the undo command because I'll end up undoing all the edits I've just done. You just type oops into the command line and it'll bring back the last delete. Whatever your last delete was, it'll just bring it back. So little commands like that, again, you could add that into the quick access toolbar if you want. Again, it'd just be in the CUI. You just search for the command oops. It should be in there. If it isn't in there, we'll have to make one. It isn't in there, that's fine. We can just go and make our own command. If I just cancel that, and you make your own command with that button there. I'm not going to do it now, we ain't got time. It's all about performance, okay? So let's just cancel that for now. We have run out of time, but I just want to, I say this to everybody that I meet, tool palettes. That will save you the most time, the most faffing about you will have is in your tool palette. So if you have a look at, there's no layers in here. If I look at there's only a dashed line type, that's all we've got in here. If I wanted to start drawing things on a regular basis, we can add them into tool palettes. So you can put blocks in here, you can put commands in here, we can put assemblies in here, we can put sub-assemblies in here, etc. Just add everything to your tool palette. So now if I want to draw these easement lines here, I can. And if I want to draw a hatch, I can just drag that hatch onto there, and there it is, all done. All the layers set up, all the colours set up, all the line types set up, everything working for me. Use tool palettes. They're there to make your life easier and quicker. Right, last thing then, I've run over a little bit. When it comes to performance, again, if you're working with large surface data sets, which is a common one in Civil 3D, there's a couple of things you can do that will do it. So this is a LiDAR data set here. The first thing you do when you're building your LiDAR data sets, So if I go to my surface now over here and LiDAR, you add the boundary in first. I know that sounds counterintuitive. You're used to adding boundaries in at the last minute. But if you add the boundary in first as a data clip boundary, then when you import the LiDAR data, it will trim out before it builds the surface, which makes life a lot easier. So this data set here, if I select it, was 2 tiles, 2 million points on LiDAR. If I look at the properties, because I added the boundary in first, there's only 660,000 points, and it hasn't inserted over 1.34 million points, which is brilliant, isn't it? Which is good. But here's the first top tip. You know, when you've got these large data sets and you're showing contours, you can see how jerky my mouse is. Every time it touches a contour, it's waiting to build up the tooltip. But I don't want to turn tooltips off generally. I just want to turn them off on that surface. Just remember, for you Civil 3D users, you have in all objects under surface properties, in surface cases, or alignment properties under alignment cases, etc., you can just turn tooltips off. So now my mouse is nice and smooth. Wherever I put it along this surface, I can easily select it without that jerkiness, etc. So that's really good as well. That's it. I'm way out of time, so let's just wrap up. Before I leave you, let's just talk about what we offer here at Greytech. We offer training in all our software and partner software, right from basics right the way up to advanced levels, and this includes software and BIM level training. You can choose where to have the training. It can be at your office, it can be at our office, or it can be online. If you want more information, just go to our website and have a good look there. We have various consultancy programs as well. So we can do anything from helping you to use your software to getting the best out of your team. We can also help you achieve BIM accreditation status, and we can do software development. If you can think of it, we can build it. We produce a lot of blogs and events, a bit like this one here. These events can be online. Sometimes they're in person at a swanky place somewhere around the world, or they can be at your place as well, where you choose how swanky it is. And of course, we, at the heart of our organisation, are a software producer. Our own suite of software is designed for business efficiency and design quality. You've probably already seen our power packs, which sit in Revit, Advanced Steel, Inventor, Vault, and Plant 3D. Go look at things like Advanced Design if you haven't already, Advanced Workshop if you haven't already been to see that. This is an Industry 4.0 control and automation platform, for example. Now at Greytech, we do take sustainability very seriously, and that's why our software suites emphasise the transformative power of the digital revolution. Changing the way that we work will go a long way, and building information modelling technology is here to help. But we put our money where our mouth is. We've transformed our own car fleet from diesel to electric and hybrid. We've moved to a hybrid working environment. We deliver many events and training online. And on top of that, we give many days volunteering to non-profit organisations working towards this sustainable future. And we donate our software and hard cash to things like Habit for Humanity. And that's it. I will leave you to go and finish your cup of tea. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them now.